All right, I've got a big show for you guys today. It's been an interesting day in the markets, a profitable day. I'm going to go through a handful of trades, but the main purpose of this particular video is going to be Meta. Meta's earnings are after the close today. I don't know how quickly I'm going to get this video up, but I don't think it really matters. I'm going to give you a big picture view of what I see going on with Meta. I'm going to give you a price that you might consider going long. I'm going to give you a price that you might consider going short. I think that the charts have spoken, and there's a very clear image shaping up in the Meta chart, and I'm going to show it to you guys today so that you can have perhaps some confidence or a basis to go back and do your own due diligence and look at the Meta trade. I think there's money to be made in the Meta trade, and I'm going to break it down for you guys today. This is the Stocks with Josh show. I appreciate you guys joining me over in the Discord today. Now, the Discord is a Patreon that I have together with the Stock Squad. That's 4 of us: Stock Mo, Keenan Grace, Stock Up with Larry Jones, and myself. I jumped on and I gave 2 trades within an hour that largely came close to profiting around 2K. If you followed them the very minute you saw them, you might not have gotten the exact best price that I got, but you would have cleared $1,000. I only went on to give those as example trades today. The market was super choppy. It was a difficult day to trade. I had some big moments where I was up, some moments where I pulled back, but largely I'm finishing the day in the green, and I'm looking forward to the open tomorrow. I think that what I'm going to show you guys in the big tech stocks that I'm going to break down for you today is going to give you a little bit of a big picture of what tomorrow might look like. So before I kick off, let's just go into a small view of what we've got left in the markets this week as far as our schedule goes. We get tomorrow the GDP for Q3 of 2023. And I'm going to keep it super simple for you guys. If the GDP shrinks, it means that the market or the economy is in trouble. But if it goes up, it means that it's much stronger than anyone was currently expecting. Of course, the Fed is going to be watching very closely those numbers. And then we've got Thursday's got a big earnings day for those who are following Amazon. They report on Thursday, as well as Intel. And then Friday, you got all the oil companies are going to be reporting. There's been a lot of money to be made recently on ExxonMobil. But more importantly, on Friday, we're getting 3 strategic data reports. We're getting personal income, personal spending, and personal consumption. All 3 of these are, again, something the Fed's going to be looking at, and it's going to have a lot to do with how the average person is doing and what they're doing with their money, and it's going to make it's going to be forecasting what we could expect going into the tail end of this year on what the consumer's doing. And so we're going to be looking at that on Friday. It's definitely going to move the markets. So let's begin by looking at the heat map of the S&P 500. And as you can see, it was an ugly day. Very few outliers. I'm going to identify 2 that stand out to me. Obviously, Microsoft was the only one that was doing pretty well today, and they did well on some good earnings. Yesterday, they reported some positive earnings, and the stock jumped 5% after market, and then it jumped another 3% today. The revenue for Microsoft was up 13% year over year. Gross profits were $40.2 billion, which were up 16% year over year. They have a massive gross margin of 71%, which is absolutely incredible. It just reminds you of how good some of these big tech companies are and why they're leading the pack. They've got a net income of $22.3 billion, and that was a 27% year-over-year increase. In addition, they saw their cloud revenue accelerating, which was the opposite of what we got from Google. And so Microsoft had a pretty good day, but their PE is currently 34. And what I want us to ask ourselves today is, can a 34 PE for Microsoft continue to go up if the overall macro environment is not that good? And that's what we're going to be looking at here. So I will give you 2 general observations of big tech earnings so far, but let's just look at what happened with Google. We know that Google was taken out to the woodshed and given a beating. It dropped after earnings yesterday 4%, and then today another 9%, pushing it right down to support and below. Now, these guys beat on revenue and they beat on earnings per share, but they missed slightly on their cloud revenue. And so it just shows you the analyst view and expectation for the big tech earnings that we're currently going through. These guys have to kill it for them to get a bump. And even then, the question is, will that bump hold? Now, Google has come under the selling pressure, and I am expecting from where it's at today for it to go down a little bit more, and then for it to get at least a dead cat bounce, a back test to 128, which used to be support. Now it may act as resistance, and who knows, we may continue to go down. But I did enter into some calls right before making this video in preparation for that dead cat bounce back up to 128, because at the moment it seems oversold to me. Now, beneath where we're currently at, support is around 121, which means that it can go down quite a bit more, but it's gone down enough, oversold enough on the 4-hour chart. You know how I like to look at that Bollinger Bands. It's outside the Bollinger Bands, and so I think before it gets permission to go down anymore, it's got to come up a little bit, and I've got a small play with that expectation in mind on Google. But overall, I'll be telling you, the trend is bearish. Don't go long calls right now with short expiration, because you might lose all your money. All right, so my two observations on Google and Microsoft so far is this. In the NASDAQ, only 21% of stocks are currently in an uptrend. And so we want to pause about that. So 80% are in a downtrend. So even if these guys come out with good earnings, that's my main point today, is can they go up how far can they go up in this current environment when 80% of the stocks are decidedly bearish? And that brings me to my number 2 point about the earnings season that we're currently in, is that if good companies that kill it with earnings, beating revenue, beating earnings per share, sell off a couple days after they pop, then it just tells you that the headwinds are against the market, and we need to, again, identify that we're in a bearish trend and trade accordingly. And so in just a minute, I'm going to give you guys a prediction for Meta. But before I do, quick station break. If you need better trade tools, there's links to the exchanges that I use. I use Moomoo and I use Webull. Moomoo is recently available in Canada, or newly available in Canada, and Webull is newly available in the UK. So there's a link for both of them. I specifically like the Moomoo earnings calendar. I was checking it on and off throughout the day to keep an eye on exactly what's going on this week. It's super easy to use. Plus, I host a chat group on the Moomoo app. It's a free chat group, and I have got great leadership in that chat group feeding the family all throughout the day. I use both of those platforms every day. Check them out. Okay, so how will all of this macro environment affect Meta? What do the Meta charts tell me that I'm going to unfold to you guys today that can hopefully make us some money? Let's just take a big step back and look at the charts overall. Now, what I see when I look at these charts over the last year is that we have formed an ominous double top. Now, a double top is when you get two peaks that you get a sell-off beneath, and you've got a valley in between. Now, here's the warning on a double top. If it gets confirmed bearish, if the price action moves below the lowest part between those two peaks, we call that the valley, right? And so if the price moves below the lowest price in the valley, which I see as 274, then it signals a much bigger bearish move. And I think that if we get that confirmation, so it'd be a 2-day candlestick close beneath 274 approximately, it means that this is going all the way down to $244 and maybe even 237. That would be previous resistance turns support. And so I want you guys to be aware that there is an ominous pattern currently on Meta. Now, let's just say for a minute that Meta comes out and kills it. They crush it. And this price shoots all the way back up to around the previous local high, which was 330. I think we could get up to 333. But then we will have formed a triple top, which is even more bearish than a double top. And so the real question is there enough momentum to push us all the way to 333 and then beyond after this stock has run up over 200% so far in 2023? Personally, I do not think so. And so I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on the opportunities for a sell-off and to buy some puts to the downside. But right now, if we get a close above 310, I think it means that we're going higher. And so you guys can keep an eye on that. And we also, if those two patterns that I just identified with you weren't enough, there's actually also a bearish triangle pattern forming, which means that if we were to shoot to the top of the range and hit 333, we'd have that triple top, and then we would also be at the top of a triangle bearish pattern, which typically statistically breaks to the downside. And if that were to break, then if we were to jump up today, we have support at $298. If we were to then come back and break beneath 298, it means that yet again, we've confirmed a long-term move down back to around 244. And so I would just tell you guys, don't even concern yourself with the micro chop move of earnings. There's a lot of risk to that. Now, personally, they might do well and it might pop up from here because it's oversold. And so I would consider a small position to the upside. But I think that the bigger opportunity is when this comes back and breaks key levels of support that would then confirm a much larger move to the downside. And so I'm not predicting which direction the market will go. I'm telling you that we've got three ominous patterns that have formed on this chart, and we need to be watching them very carefully for confirmation because they could be telling us that there's a much bigger move ahead, and that's the one that we're going to make the most money on, and that's the one that we're going to be patient with. So guys, in addition to that, today I'm going to be going live on this page with the Stock Squad. We're going to be talking about the market, and I'm going to be answering questions for you guys today. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. West Coast time. So it's going to be in a couple hours, so make sure you come back for that. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for hitting the like. I'm going to be talking about my AMD trade as well as a large QQQ trade that I'm in tonight. I'm going to be giving some details on that, and I think they're going to be money makers going into tomorrow. There's going to be opportunity there. You're never too late. So I'll be setting those up in the video tonight. We're going to be talking about that on the Stock Squad live. Guys, thanks for hitting the like again. Hit the subscribe. If you want to get some help trading these choppy markets and get the technicals that you need and another set of eyes on these charts to your own due diligence. As always, peace and blessings. We'll talk to you soon.